Okay, great. So nice to be here. And I remember those scenes 33 years ago. I remember them well. It's the kind of a night that we would say, where were you when you heard? Where were you when you heard that the Sfarim were coming back? It's interesting that this evening is being called, I think, the crown to success, the crown of success. Those Sfarim, the Rebbe felt that they were the crown of his Nesias. So it's so incredible that we're seeing it. It happened tonight, but the Sfarim didn't come back till 4 days from now. And today we found out that they're coming back. 4 days from now, they were going to come back, and they were going to have a march with a chuppah from Empire Boulevard up Kingston Avenue, and thousands of people following the Sfarim. This was going to be the biggest Idan Notzach of ever. But the Rebbe didn't seem to, he didn't say anything. And so they didn't do it like that. And they realized from what the Rebbe said or didn't say, that this is the Luchas Shnius. And the second Luchas were done quietly, maybe secretly. So it really fits what we're doing tonight, because tonight we're going to be speaking about many things, and some things about a shekel, some things about tznius, some things about shlichus, so many things that really tie in to this concept of the Sfarim coming back. And I want to wish us that all the Sfarim should come home soon and immediately. And tonight we will be talking about Simcha, don't run away, also about tznius, and many concepts that are close to a woman's heart. As I said before, the crown of success. The Sfarim were like the crown of the Rebbe's Nesias, and the woman, she's the crown of creation. We are the Midah of Malchus, but we need to believe it. And tonight, I have to tell you, Fruma Belanov, she worked so hard. She gathered speakers. We have a speaker from Japan. We have a speaker from Hawaii. We have a speaker, we have a singer, and that they will all bring out the concepts that we need to talk about tonight. And I want to say thank you to Mrs. Perel Krasniansky, who came on today and did us a very big favor, because Mrs. Bernstein, who was supposed to speak, couldn't make it. She had another thing that she had to go to, I think in New Jersey, I'm not sure. So at the last minute, Mrs. Perel Krasniansky came in, and we really appreciate it. Okay, we're beginning. My question to each presenter was, what's your passion and why? Our first speaker is Gitty Stolick, and Mrs. Stolick is speaking about Simcha. When I asked her the question, she said, of course, Simcha is my passion. I'm going to read what they said, but not regular happiness, cutting edge Simcha, not to add lights in the tunnel, but to feed off the light at the end of the tunnel. Moshiach dike Simcha. I give you Gitty Stolick.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Miryam, you're such a pro at this. You know, this is my first, this type of setting where I have to be part of this kind of situation that I'm not running the show. And so I am so excited to be part of this. And I'm so excited to be part of a joy movement, and every one of us is part of it. I want us all to give this your all. Now, how amazing that this event is called the Crown of Success, or something very similar to it, because I'll tell you why in a minute. Let me start with the story. So a little anecdote. So let me see what time it is. Yeah. Okay. So here's this young, let me see if I can pronounce, entrepreneur. entrepreneur, just starting out, and approaches this very successful businessman and says to him, tell me, tell me what do I do? How do I become successful? So he gave her advice. Jump at opportunity. So she says, well, how can I tell when my opportunity is coming? So he says, you can't. Just keep jumping. Now, I want to give you the good news. I want to give you a perk about jumping. Besides that, if you jump at opportunities, you will hit success. Jumping for joy is actually a wonderful exercise. And guess what? Even if you're a couch potato, you can still do this exercise. This is amazing, like everybody's a winner. So joy, simcha, is really the key to success in so many things. Like try dabbing on some joy onto your diet, onto your diet plan, okay? Exercise, of course, your studies, and you will taste the sweet taste of success, whatever you add, whatever will be added. I actually want to give you just a little starter list of how many things can benefit from simcha. Okay, so here, just for a little taste. Love, like turns to love. Reflect, unity. Simcha is a bonder. It's a people bonder. Bittul, humility. The actual truest simcha emerges from humility. And I want to tell you all, we're in Parshas Chayesara that this week in Tafshin Mem Aleph, the Rebbe shared with us a landmark mimer on simcha. It has amazing, amazing ideas. I'd love to learn this with you, but not now. Okay, chinuch for sure. Okay, what I saw was my phone. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. Chinuch for sure. You know, if we incorporated simcha with our tznius, we'd all be rebbetzins. Resilience, health, bitachon, davening. With joy is actually can even replace your davening. It's a tefillah. Joy itself is a tefillah. It's a tefillah of confidence. Joy is an energizer, a motion motivator, a core activator. And I'm not even going to finish the list. Okay, let's go on now. We are Thursday night, and you know, my mind is actually in the kitchen. So, and I'm in a domestic mode now. It's Erev Shabbos, and I think, okay, I want to make this home very special for Shabbos. You know, we women are we are the ones that care about the home, about creating a warm and welcoming home, about putting beautiful pictures on. You know, I did my wallpaper like about a year and a half ago. I still haven't decorated the walls. This is terrible. It's only waiting for me. If I'm not going to do it, no one will. And I want to find just the right picture. I have an idea about when I want to get. And
I speak in between every.
You know what? Okay. So we care so much. And we are the ones that, how do we decorate our walls? You know what? We also, not just the hangings, but also the paint. What color paint are we going to put on there? Do you know how we paint walls? You know how each one of us paints our walls? With our warm, happy sounds. I want to hold something up for you. You see this? Hope you see it the right way. What do you read? Mishpacha. Mishpacha is a Hebrew word for family. I made the pay in the middle extra big. If we take away the pay, what does that leave? You know what these words form? Sin, men, sorry, can't read this. Sin, men, ches, hey, simcha. You know that Pei, which stands for the mouth, is our creator of a home ambience. We can change the entire atmosphere in the house with that one Pei. What does this come to teach us? It comes to teach us that we can use this tool, this mouth of ours all day. What can we do? We can say, today is going to be a wonderful day. Children, I'm so blessed. Hashem gave me such wonderful children. You know, when you say this, it's going to come true faster than you imagine. And tell the husband wonderful things. With our mouths, we create mishpacha, we create design. This week, we said Parshas Chaisara. Chaisara, I'm not Chaisara, but Sarah Imenu. This is a story that she did something for us that we have to be forever thankful to her. What did she do? So this minor explains that Sarah was part of a 3-part effort to perfect, to make joy usable for Yidden and Avodas Hashem in a way that we will not botch up our Avodas Hashem, that she empowered us to be using Simcha in a way that will not corrupt us, that we will not become shallow as a result of it, that we will not become egotistic, that we will not derail into superficial happiness, and that we will always have it founded on the foundation of Yirus Hashem, and to keep us pure and focused. But you know, Chava started, and she failed. Noach had to turn 10 generations later, and he failed. And Sarah was the one that succeeded. You know what we called her? Our first joy genius. I want to tell you an interesting story I had this week. Somebody was talking to me, like everybody else in the world. Everybody else in the world, we are all rich. You know how we're all rich, no matter what our income? We are rich in opportunities to practice Simcha. Because every challenge is an opportunity to serve Hashem. So Hashem gives us these opportunities. We don't appreciate them. We wish we weren't the tzaddik and Hashem didn't love us. He wouldn't notice us and just leave us and let us have a good day. But Hashem wants to accomplish something, so he does. So she was talking to me, and I was telling her, you know, it's Parshas Chaisara, and her family, actually, between her and a few family members, there's a name of Chaya and the name of Sarah. So I started giving her a whole workup about what Sarah Imenu, how she empowered us with the Simcha, and this is. She gave us the koyach, and I didn't tell you a few things. And then she calls me up the next day and she said, you won't believe it. I went to the Ohel, and when I came out, on the video screen, the Rebbe was talking about Sarah Imenu and Simcha. So here we are. Now we say, okay, what is Simcha? So I want to tell you all something. I started writing, and I wasn't planning ever to write a book. I'm really not the person. You know what? There are smarter people than me, wiser people. I kept thinking, I'm not smart enough. I'm not wise enough. I'm not good enough. I can't write books. But I kept writing and writing and writing. And why did I? All because of this paper that was hanging on my wall. What is on this paper? It's a cut and paste from a sikha that the Rebbe said in the end of Tashin Memches. And what he said is that we have been in Golos for so long. We have tried so many tricks to get out of Golos, but we're not out yet. What do we need to do? The Rebbe gave us a new trick, a new tip. Now, I should be in my kitchen cutting things up. You know, and whenever I cut, I always remember what my mother told me. She says, a balabasta is only as good as the cheese. I said, okay, we need things that cut. So the Rebbe gave us something new to cut with, to cut the Golos with. I want to give you an example first. I heard this from Rabbi Sheiskal. He was talking about the sikhs that the Rebbe, the latest sikhs. He said like this. This is very interesting. In the time of the Alter Rebbe, Napoleon was, and his liberalism was poison. Like he was literally Meiser Nefesh to get away from Napoleon's control. And then suddenly in our time, the Rebbe upends this, and what was once a curse turns into a blessing. And what does he say? Exactly the words that I use. That the Rebbe, with his Ruach HaKodesh, is on the cutting edge, and that only a Rebbe will know when something is changing and when a policy needs to change to address the need of the time. And this is exactly what I was saying when he said it. I really perked up. I said, this is exactly it. All the years in Golos, laughter was not commendable. The Gemara says, also, and suddenly the Rebbe comes out and says, but now we're so close. And I want to give you a metaphor, okay? So, you know that by tomorrow afternoon, we're all going to have food all over our counters. Kugel, whatever you're making, all over. Anybody comes into the kitchen and cut themselves a piece of fresh kugel, enjoy it. I know you're starving, take another piece. Don't worry, I make a kugel for the afternoon, another one for the night. You know that even though it's Thursday night, and even though yesterday was Wednesday, and even though the days before that was Tuesday, no matter what, every day now, we're in the 6th millennium, it's like Erev Shabbos every day. Just like Erev Shabbos, you can already cut yourself a piece of kugel and taste it. The Rebbe told us that now in our time, we already have the delicacies of Geula. What is the delicacy personally that I'm looking for? Not the candies on the trees. I'm looking for the simcha. The simcha that we had in Golos. First of all, it's imperfect. The good is mixed with the bad. It shrinks. Even the simcha of Golos is imperfect. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be a whole, you can't even imagine. First of all, we're not going to have egos. We're going to look at each other with such unity. It's going to be such an amazing way of existing. So the Rebbe says now, because we are in the end of the 6th millennium, we're in the afternoon, the delicacy already exists. You can already sample it. You already need it. You already need to delve in and taste and sample the simcha that's at the end of the tunnel, that pure joy that we're going to have. It doesn't always have to be based on coffee anymore. We could literally feed off it. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't have cheesecake and say, listen, I love cheesecake, but the reason I'm having this is to be ma'arer, to arouse my simcha for Geula. You know, just like when you make matzah, what do you see? The Shem Mitzvah matzah. All you have to do is think to yourself, I'm doing this for the pure reason for simcha for Geula, because you know why? It's okay to take our nefesh habamis and align with it. That's how people become successful. You disarm your enemy, you're making your friend, and then we'll all dance together, and that's great. Okay, now, I want to give another example. No, I'm not going to go into that example. Okay, now let's see what I want to do next. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I think we want to get to the end over here, so I'm going to stop finishing up. Now, do you ever hear positive psychology, right? Positive psychology are these very smart people who thought of a great new idea. They thought that, you know what, instead of saying that success leads to happiness, they're going to switch the model. They're going to say the happiness, they really mean joy. They mean, they don't know what they mean actually. I know what I mean, but actually that's one thing I was going to speak about. I don't know if I'll get to it. So they said, instead of going, okay, once you're successful, you'll be happy. They said, no. You want success? Begin with happiness, because simcha gives you the power. And then that will lead to success. But I want to ask you something. And all your positive psychologists out there in the world, listen up. You're giving us a model, and you think it's an improved model. But let's ask you, What do you mean by the success? What kind of success do you think you're arriving at? Okay, you'll be happy, you'll get to success. What? You're just preaching more of the same thing. You just flip the Seder, but it's still the same thing. What you don't know what we didn't have to offer. Our success is the success that you wish you knew about. So this is what the Rebbe is telling us. The Rebbe said, from now on, whatever we do, because we're so close, because we're Friday afternoon, whatever we do, we have to think of Shabbos. And what is Shabbos? Yen Shekula Shabbos. Think of Geula. So everything we do, we're going to think of, we're going to take it through a gate called the Shabbos of Geula. And we are going to, this way, bring the world to its destination. But you know what? Yes. Interesting is that the Geula itself also needs to go through a gate. Do you know what that gate is? Simcha. Now this is what Hasidus did for us. Instead of each of us looking at our own individual problem. Now I can't see all of you, but if anybody here has problems, you can raise your hand. Or maybe I should do it the opposite way. If anybody doesn't have problems, raise your hand, because guess what? If we're human, we have problems. Now, so, okay, let's say all my problems are resolved. Will I be happy? Well, what about somebody down my block still has problems? Can I be happy if someone else still is unhappy? So basically, Simcha is not just about resolving my misery and my problem. Only when we have a perfectly happy world will we finally be at peace. So Simcha extends us beyond self-preoccupation. And this is what Hasidus did. Hasidus opened up for us a magnificent expanded role in which we are all primary important players in the scheme of the entire creation, from the entire creation of the world, from the very beginning, all the way to the end. In other words, what is really bringing the world from its beginning to its culmination? One thing only, Simcha. Simcha is the key to success. Take it along with you, whatever you do. And so in finalizing, I would like to say this. I think I have one more thing here. Okay. Now, I'm just holding this up and you won't be able to read it. The Rebbe said something very compelling. The Rebbe said, Golus and Saras are compared to darkness. Simcha is light. The fact that we are still in Golus is a sign that we have not yet brought out enough light. Does that make sense? It's very logical. When we bring out enough light, the darkness will be nullified, it will be overpowered. It will simply cease to be. Here, the Rebbe, and when did the Rebbe say this? So this is the week. So Pashas Chayesara, he gave us the whole idea about Sarah being the joy genius, which is, by the way, it's based on Sarah. Shabbos Pashas Chayesara, he shared with us this logic that you can take it to anyone in the world, that you don't have to be a chassid of any Rebbe. You could be anybody, and it makes so much sense. So how do we do this? How we do this is we take our little minds, a little 6 inches, and we learn the language of Simcha. The language of Simcha is, actually I give workshops and we practice new sentences that we're going to come into when anything that comes in our mind and we don't ask for them and they come in our mind all the time, we are prepared, we are pre-armed, pre-warned and pre-armed, and we practice this and you won't believe the amazing changes. It just comes out like that. I'm so enjoying the WhatsApp chat that goes on between one session and the other. So I want to also tell you one more thing, and that's what I want to tell you in the beginning. When I started working on this, I had a big misconception. I thought Simcha is a state of mind, and you have to force yourself into it because why? Because a Yid should be the Simcha. A chassid for sure should be besimcha. So it's like a Kabbalah fell. Do it. Just do it. But ladies, I want to have good news for you. It's much better than that. Well, I have discovered how to bring people to actually that simcha is so inviting that we're just going to follow it like the beautiful music that someone followed because they were so enchanted. We discovered that simcha is a beautiful music. We discovered the tainug. And it's time for us to live in tainug, the time of tainug, because it's Friday afternoon. And we're coming close to Shabbos, and Shabbos is a time of oneg, delight. So it's time for us to learn how to live with tainug. It's time for us to enjoy what's going on in our minds. It's time for us to bring the light into our mind, because you know what? Every mind that carries a little more light, 1 more watt of light, we can tip the scale. We can bring the entire world from dark. We can be that final light. Each one of us has the power. Simcha has the power to make ordinary people extraordinary. So I want to recommend to all of you, don't leave your house. Write Simcha on a card. Make yourself a little card, a little credit card. Take it along with you. Don't leave the house without it, and don't even stay home without it. And I hope I just gave you a little. Oh, by the way, a little. Can I finish my sentence, please? I hope I gave you a little starter kit. I do want to tell you that I wrote 2 books. Actually, today I just launched the ebook for New Joy, called New Joy. What's my book called? New Joy, Response to a Changing World. I didn't forget, but I'm stage fright, you see. I don't know how I wrote 2 books. I'm so stage fright to speak and to write. But you know what? If you're looking to the future and you want something to happen, you just push. So, okay, so the other book is called It's Okay to Laugh. Seriously, I want to tell you that I was laughing when she put, what's it called? She bulleted me as a great speaker. You all know the truth. I'm not taking myself too seriously. I'm not getting carried away. But one thing I do take seriously is joy. And good luck to all, and may you all succeed, and may we all succeed together.
Thank you, Gitty. Thank you for giving us so much to think about. I just want to add one thing, that if there's a car, I want you to imagine that there is a car, what's the best car? I don't know, a souped up Cadillac going on a race with a 1995 car. And you're sure that the 2020 souped up Cadillac is going to win this race. There's only one problem. The 2020 souped up Cadillac ran out of gas. And so after 3 minutes of the race, the other car won. That gas is simcha. Anything we do, if we do it, this isn't a pen. If we do it b'simcha, anything we do b'simcha, we're going to make it. And if we do it without, azeidos. Our next presenter is a singer. Her name is Tzirel Liba Mitzmann. And when I called her and I asked her, what's your passion and why? She said the nicest thing. My passion is the Shabbos queen, she said. I know and believe that Shabbos holds the key to the Geula, and the key to Shabbos are in the hands of the woman. You know that. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Tzirel Leah Mitzmann. Take it away, Tzirel Leah. If you don't, I'll sing, so you better. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
No, I was waiting for the host to unmute me. It wasn't my choice. Hello, everyone. Gittin Erev Shabbos. So yes, my passion is Shabbos. And in fact, I run a daily 3-minute WhatsApp and email and other places group for women called the Shabbos Queen Project, because after decades of being, from Jew, I realized when I heard Rav Kolodetsky speak that Shabbos is the Makor HaBracha, and you have incredible power in Shabbos. So everything the Rebbetzin was just saying is so my heart, and I've been doing this daily WhatsApp and group for 2.5 years. And Baruch Hashem, like the amount vastness of Shabbos and what you can access in Devekus and Bracha is just beyond whatever you think, no matter wherever you've been. So everyone's invited to join. We can hopefully put the link up. I sent it. And I didn't send it, but I gave it to Froma. And since the song that was requested, first I give a caveat. All music is a gift from the Rabbanu Shalom, and I am immensely grateful for that gift. And so this house is called The Lighthouse. This song is called The Lighthouse. And I know the Rebbe always talks about everyone being a lamplighter. And indeed we are, and Shabbos is the source of that light. So even if you're only lighting up one person, you lit up the world. You lit up their world, and you lit up a lot. Just a little bit of light can go a long way. Add a little more each day. Add a little more each day. Little bit of light can brighten the world. Shine a little more each day. Shine a little more each day. In a sea of darkness, you can be a lighthouse. You can save so many ships from crashing in the storm. And the night is clouded, and the moon and stars don't shine. Let your lighthouse shine. Let your lighthouse shine. One kind word can heal a life forever, heal a life for better. Watch and see. One small deed can bring us all together, bring us all together magically. In a sea of darkness, you can be a lighthouse. You can save so many ships from crashing in the storm. The night is clouded, and the moon and stars don't shine. Let your lighthouse shine. Let your lighthouse shine. One small prayer can heal the world forever, heal the world forever. Yes, it can. A hand held out in peace can bring us all together, bring us all together. Understand, in a sea of darkness, you can be a lighthouse. You can save so many ships from crashing in the storm. The night is clouded, and shine. Let your lighthouse shine. Let your lighthouse shine. Let your lighthouse shine.
Wow. Wow. Let your lighthouse shine. And this brings us right into our next guest, Efrat Edry. She is the lighthouse in Japan. Efrat, I miss you. You're so far away. When I wrote to Efrat and I said, Efrat, what's your passion? She immediately said, my shlichus. To make a difference, I'm reading everything they said because I don't want to misquote anyone. To make a difference in people's lives, to share with others the treasures, listen, open your heart, to share with others the treasures we were zeichet to get from the Rebbe, to make their lives sweeter, easier, and more meaningful, like the Rebbe did for us. Efrat Edry, it's yours. I can't wait to hear you.
She's coming on in 1 minute.
Okay, I made a mistake. Forgive me. Molly is next. I made a mistake, my mistake. So when I called Molly and I said, Molly, what's your passion? I mean, I know what Molly's passion is. Molly's passion is tznius. Tznius in dress and tznius in talk. You don't know how often Molly stops me when I say a word she doesn't like. And when I said to her, why is that your passion? She said, okay, I'll explain when you introduce me. So Molly, Resnick, take it away. It's yours. And I'm sorry I mixed up the order.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be part of this great event here that Mrs. Belenov has put together. And I'm so honored to be participating. So my passion with tznius started with my first yechidus with the Rebbe. I was a secular Israeli who landed a very special job at NBC News in New York. It was called 5 Minutes With, interviewing all the greatest stars in movies and theater, Baryshnikov, Makarova, Gregory Peck, Sophia Loren, John Travolta, Edward Heath, Giscard d'Estaing, Pavarotti, you name it, that was famous in the 70s and 80s, and I got it interviewed. And so I was running this amazing life, but at a certain point I realized that there must be more to life than fame and fortune and success. So I decided I'm taking a leave of absence to seek the truth and the meaning of life. I decided to travel around the world and to find out. I started with South America. In Brazil, I met a shlucha of the Rebbe, whose mom got me to light candles on that first Shabbos that I visited them. As a matter of fact, when the little young girl of 20 walked in, she was wearing the Gucci and the Pucci and the Bali and the Mali. And I said, who is this? And they said, she's our daughter. I said, but she looks normal. Then they want me to light candles. And for me, this is voodoo. But I did it anyway. I did the act of lighting candles. And pretty soon I fell in love with Yiddishkeit and I fell in love with Torah. And I decided that I am going to become a Jew who is observant in Torah and mitzvahs. Now I go back to New York. And I'm 32 years old. And of course, I am dying to get married, but I don't tell that to anybody. They set me up with the Rebbe's doctor. And Baruch Hashem, I married him. But the interesting thing was that as we were going out, I told him that I wanted to interview the Rebbe. He came back after he met the Rebbe and he said to me that the Rebbe told him that he hopes that the next time the Rebbe sees him, he'll be able to wish him a mazel tov. I said, that's very nice. It's a mazel tov for you, but not for me. So I wrote the Rebbe a letter. And I will quote to you the reply that the Rebbe sent to me, and then I will translate. צודקת בכותבה שלכל צד מגיע מענה בפני עצמו. She is correct in writing that every side deserves their own answer. שתדבר במזכירות ברצונה לראות פנים אל פנים. She should contact the secretariat about her desire to want to see me face to face. אזכיר על הציון. I will mention it at my father-in-law's grave. So now I'm the happiest person in the world and I am going to see the Rebbe. So I dress up royally. Navy blue gabardine suit, yellow canary silk blouse, pearls, patent leather shoes, lizard handbag. And I come in. And the Rebbe looks at me and he says, do you always dress like this? What's wrong with what I'm wearing? I asked the Rebbe. Now you came to see me. I want to make sure that you always dress like this. Can you imagine? The moment the Rebbe met me, 40 years ago, he gave me a mission for life. To be what? A royal princess. We are the women of the Jewish people, the people of the book, the people of the Torah, and we are absolute royalty. But what is royalty? Let me show you a picture. We have a picture here of Prince William, and I'm asking Mrs. Smith if she could please put up the picture. Thank you very much. Keep it up until I ask you to leave it down. And if you will see, the picture is taken in a very modern way. It's cut. He's stark looking at you, no smile, no edelkeit, no refinement. And this is the future of the British Empire. They could have put him on a horse. They could have put him behind the cockpit of a jet pilot. He has a license, but they chose this. You can now, no edelkeit, nothing. This stark looking model actor. Now let me show you a picture of the Queen of England before she was queen. And look at the difference. The Queen is looking not like me, unfortunately. There's a picture of a queen that's going to come up any moment now. When Mrs. Smith, thank you, voila. Look at modern technology. It's just made for the Rebbe and for us. Look at this woman, exuding dignity, refinement, edelkeit, royalty without a crown. But this is the difference. At the time, thank you for the picture. At the time, you can take it off, thank you. They were trying to rehabilitate the monarchy. It had gone through a very hard time. It was a time of what the Queen called annus horribilis, where the royal family was falling apart, divorces, scandals. And they thought that the way to get the young vote, to get the popularity back, was to make Prince William look like them. But instead of aiming high, they were steering low. royalty and leadership do not look like that. When we go out as women, we're not supposed to have our hair all flared up or bundled up as if we just come out of bed. Our skirts are not supposed to be dragging on the floor or way over our knees. We should not be talking loudly across the street, mingling with the opposite gender unnecessarily. We should be acting like the royalty that we are. And indeed, this royalty that I described to you before, if you see Prince William and Princess Kate, even though they are goyim, they are acting and dressing really quite royally. But it's not always an easy task. I'm going to tell you a story. When I had just gotten married, I went back to NBC wearing a beret. But they made fun of me. Did they throw you in the mikveh? Did they shave your head? It was too much. I decided I was going to throw my beret away, and then I was going to walk into the newsroom myself. Suddenly, Pia Lindstrom, the daughter of Ingrid Bergman, one of our stars at NBC, says, "Molly, but you look so good with hats." I said, "Thank you very much, Pia, but that's not the reason I wear them. I wear them because I have been taught that a Jewish woman, once she is married, has to cover her original hair and not show it to others." She looked at me and she said, "It's so amazing that you have the courage of your convictions." Do you know what I felt at that moment? Like I was 10 feet tall. I felt like I conquered the world. And this was just not even a Jewish woman giving me the courage to follow the convictions that we as Jewish women are given by our God. Think of Kimchet. Kimchet was a woman who had 7 sons who were Kohanim Gedolim. Can you imagine? But many people say, women have told me, "Listen, you know what? Thank you. I don't need to have Kohanim Gedolim. I'm fine with good, frum Jewish boys." But the Rebbe tells us that if we have the schus to have boys who can attain such a stature, it is our duty to do everything in our power to help them get there. And the brachas that come with every act of tahara and tznius and kedusha are lasting for generations. So actually, I was very fortunate a few years ago to encounter a group called Ma'agalim, meaning circles in Hebrew. It was created by the women of Kfar Chabad. And what they do is they get up to 12 women together to form a group, and they have workshops with a curriculum and a resource and then they sit and they learn and they discuss and they bring out all the questions that bother people about this wonderful word called tznius. Because tznius is what Hashem wanted us to run the world with. It's, as I recall, and I wrote it down so I shouldn't make a mistake, it is Asat Mishpat Ahavat Tzedek V'Hatznea Lechet Im Hashem Elokecha. This is our to do justice, to act with chesed, with love, and to walk humbly with our God in every single way. And these women get together and they form these groups and they're like Weight Watchers. But instead of giving strength for women to lose weight, they give them strength to grow in their tznius and an avodas Hashem. So instead of losing weight, they get together to gain in mitzvahs. We have been doing this now in Crown Heights and other parts of the world for over 4 years, and the results are great. We've done it in our high schools, in our elementary schools, in our seminaries. In fact, we're going to be doing them this year also, hopefully, if we have to in Zoom. But the results are excellent, and I encourage you to get involved and look into it. Now, in our exile, our first one in Egypt, we were redeemed because of the women of our generation, the women who wore the crown of glory, who were the Nashim Tzidkanios. B'zchut Nashim Tzidkanios nigalu avoteinu mimitzrayim. These women had the schos, people did, to keep their names, to keep their language, and their attire intact. This is the glory of the Jewish people, the glory of the Jewish women. And I want to bless us all that we should have the great schos to be able to be strong in doing these same mitzvahs and to be strong in acting in its tzniustic merit and for all the good that Hashem and the Rebbe have promised us for our future, for ourselves, for the generations of today, and for our future generations. Thank you very much.
Molly, you're like good wine. You're getting better. You were great. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you,
Molly.
Miryam. Thank you, everyone. It should be a big hatzlacha for everyone.
Thank you. Sei gesund. Okay, now what we will do is we have a whole group. I have a list of Tillim things that we have to say. And I'd like to open for you to please say also from my friend Rivka Esther Basmindel. And this is for Refuah Shlema. She should be well immediately now. And this is a different list. Leilu Nishmas, this program. And I have to tell you, Mrs. Belinov worked very, very hard. Really, with Akmas Nefesh and with phone calls. And she just worked very, very hard. This is the list that she gave me. Leilu Nishmas, Shmuel David ben Avram Osher, Chava Bas Yerachmiel, if I remember, those are her parents. Mordechai ben Chava Shmuel David, Tzvi Hirsch ben Shneir Zalman, Yisrael Dov ben Yechiel Michal, Miryam Bas Shmuel Aryeh. For Reschus Refuah Shlema, Kol Chele Amcha Techa Umiyad Mamish, Leirich Yomim B'Shonim Tevis, Lischus Shnas Brocha, Batzlocha Rabba Begashmis Veruchnias, Uvachol Habrochas for Yeshua's Betei Vanira Vanigle. Fruma Baschava, that must be Fruma, and she deserves every single bracha we give her. Mordechai ben Fruma, obviously her son, Chana Baschava Rachel, Chava Rachel Baschana, Menachem Mendel ben Chana, David Yisrael ben Chana Sheyikyu. And Dita Notzach, all the rest of the swarm should come out immediately. Shleimus ha'aretz, shleimus ha'am, the Geula ha'amitis v'ashleima techev umiyad mamosh. Thank you. And now I'm introducing the lighthouse, whose name is Efrat Edry. I'm sorry about the mistake, but mistakes happen. So Efrat, I'm going to say it again. I miss you. You're far away in Japan. When I called her about her passion, she immediately said, my shlichus, to make a difference in people's lives, to share with others the treasures we were zeichet to get from the Rebbe, to make their lives sweeter, easier, and more meaningful, like the Rebbe did for us. Efrat Edry from Japan.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Swerdlov. It's a real schos for me to be here today. It's really amazing to see that you could be far away in a different country, different time zone. By us, it's Friday, 12 noon, and Shabbos is in 4 hours by us in Tokyo. So, but it's really a Maisa Mashiach. You could connect to people very dear to you, far away, and learn Torah together and strengthen ourselves together. It's really unbelievable. We didn't think we could ever do this, but Baruch Hashem. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you also, as Mrs. Swerdlov pointed out, to Mrs. Belinov, who worked so hard to put this amazing Farbrenghen together on this Yom Segula, on this very special day. And Baruch Hashem, we have such special people who care about, getting together and really giving strength to one another. So thank you very, very much. Mrs. Belinov asked that I speak about the topic of Mivtzoim and Shlichus. So first, I just wanted to say that thinking what is Shlichus and what is Mivtzoim, in order to understand what is the importance of it, we have to remember, why are we b'chlal in this world? Why are we in this world? And as the Rebbe tells us very clearly, that the whole reason that we came to the Olam Hazeh, that our neshama comes here, is to do a favor, to help, to do a favor for another person. And everyone knows to do a favor for one another, right? The Baal Shem Tov says that a neshama comes down 70 or 80 years just to do a favor for another person, begashmis or beruchnius. And I know from day one, we all had the zchus to study in the Rebbe's schools and to have amazing teachers. Baruch Hashem, our parents brought us up in the most amazing, we had the zchus to have us the best chinuch right near the Rebbe, and to grow up in the best maistos, and to have a wonderful anhala, great teachers. And this really gave us the koach to be who we are today in order to follow and do exactly what the Rebbe wants of us. A lot of times people say, who am I? I'm just, a simple person. How can I go and affect another person? But the Rebbe clearly says that just the fact that every neshama that's in this world today, in this generation, has a very special and unique mission that no other person can do in this world. So that means every person is important and vital. No one can say, just like a doctor, someone can come and say, why, there's a better doctor than me. Why should I be I'm not going to be a good enough healer for this person. But every doctor has their special way to heal. Every doctor, every person has their special way to do mivtzoyim and have an effect on other people. Not every neshama is different, and every neshama has a different shlichus than the other person has. So how do we know what our shlichus is? So first of all, very simple. The Rebbe says that wherever a person ends up, if you're in Crown Heights, you don't have to go till Tokyo, Japan, or to Alaska, or wherever it is. Every place a person is, that's where your shlichus is. Some people might be a teaching, some people are social workers, a nurse, a nursery school teacher. In whatever field you are and whichever place you are, that is the shlichus that your neshama has. And it's not stam that this didn't work out for you and that didn't work out for me, and I planned that thing in my life and I'm stuck in this place. It's just the opposite. Hashem is megalgel. He causes a person to come to a certain place and to be employed in a certain department, a certain place, a certain area, for the sole purpose that your neshama has a mission there to do. And very interestingly, I was looking at the Hayom Yom of today, Chav Hei Cheshvan. The Rebbe wrote this book in the beginning of his Nesias. And Punkt this day, everything is Hashgacha Pratis. And Punkt this day, this is the day that even after the books, they appealed and they wanted again that the books should go back to the other side. What happened? The verdict came again and said the books go back to the Rebbe. And Punkt on this day of Chav Hei Cheshvan, if you see in Hayom Yom, so it's very interesting what the Rebbe writes. Hashgacha Ha'elyona bringt jeden in sein Weinort. Why does Hashem bring every person to a different place to live? This is amazing. 4 words. Chizuk hayadus v'harbotzas haTorah. For one purpose, a person finds themselves where they are. To strengthen Yiddishkeit and harbotzas hayadus, harbotzas haTorah, and to spread Torah. To make it our business to spread Torah more and more. The manual of life, to get it out there. And the Rebbe ends and he says, and if you have any questions, if it's something worthwhile, wenn men ackert und men farzeit wächst. When one plows and sows, things grow. Every action we do, always, there's good results. There's always a pa'ula that happens as a result. I just want to tell you, here in Tokyo, my husband, last Pesach, it was during COVID, and we thought, there's no one in the streets, not many people. But my husband said, it's Pesach, we're going to go on Talucha. This is the Rebbe's Hora, and, we just have to do. So he walked about 2 hours from our area. Tokyo is very big. And he went to an area called Mita. It's a different area of Tokyo. There's a Jewish man there who has he has a restaurant. It's not a kosher restaurant, but he's a very, very special Yid. And my husband brought him matzahs, shmura matzah. And he left it by him. He said, listen, take it, give it to other Yidden who come to your restaurant. And that was it. He walked back, said it was about 4 hours. He walked with my sons and several other Yidden that were here in the Chabad house. And obviously there weren't many people in the street, but still they met him and one other Yid. Very short time after that, one day after Yom Tov, it was during Chol HaMoed, someone contacts us, and actually Dan, the owner of the restaurant, he contacted us and he said, you know, would you mind sending matzahs to a woman who frequents at my restaurant? She's a Jewish woman, she's French, she lives here in Japan for over 2.5 decades, and would you send her? We said, of course. What's her WhatsApp? We contacted her, and on the phone, she told, when we spoke, she said to me that they just, she wasn't feeling well, and they told her that she has Yanamachla, and this is really a time to bench her. Jacqueline Basara, she should have a refuah shlema Mirz Hashem. And she asked me, she said, what could she do? Her parents already passed away. They're from Paris, and she's not married. She doesn't have children. She doesn't really have anyone. And so we told her, you know, that everything happens for a reason. The fact that she came just, you know, at that moment to see she saw the shmura matzah, and she remembered her roots. She said for years she didn't have matzah on Pesach, and this is all mishamayim. And she said, would you send me to my house? We said, of course. We sent her that. We sent her a tehillim, and the package arrived exactly on the day that she went to the hospital for the operation. And we sent her a picture of the Rebbe, you know, that she should take in with her to the hospital. And sometime after that, she called up and she said, you won't believe it, but the doctor said it was mamish a miracle. Everything went much smoother than expected. And she said it was really in the merit of the matzah, because we spoke to her about, you know, what the great strength of matzah, that it heals, michla de amuna and of refuah. And I thought to myself, you know, it could have happened that she didn't come to the restaurant. It could have happened that the day of Pesach, my husband would say, you know, anyway, there's no one in the streets now. For what purpose should I go and talucha for just one person? But what happened? One mitzvah led to another. You go out to talucha, you do that pu'ula. And then from that, there was the matzah shmura for him, for other Yidden who came to the restaurant. And this woman who was ill, she also came. And that helped her also in her healing process. Baruch Hashem, now she also, you know, she's in contact with us. She came, she visits, she takes part of our shir. So it's really unbelievable how every pu'ula has an incredible, incredible hashpah. There's also another woman who came on Rosh Hashanah to hear Tkiya Shofar. We know her for many years since we came. We're here in Japan for about 20 years, 22 years. And in the beginning, when we came, we were both expecting at the same time our first son. And we gave birth just several weeks apart. And since then, every time she makes another step, you know, she adds this mitzvah, that mitzvah. For many years, we're in good contact. Her son is now 20 years old, her oldest. And when she came on Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about, you know, her oldest son being closer to Yiddishkeit, because we haven't seen him for many, many years. And I spoke to her, I said, you know, maybe he can come for Rosh Hashanah also together with you. But she told me, you know, he's so connected to the Japanese culture, because his father's Japanese, that it's very hard to really convince him to come for Seder, to come for Yontif. She told me it's not like when he was a child. When he was a child, I would bring him with me for Shabbos, for Yontif. Now he's already an adult. It's very hard to have an effect on him. So we were talking, we had different ideas. I said to her, maybe we could hire him to work, to help us in the Chabad house, and then it would keep him here and that would affect him. But he's a university student. It's very hard. You know, he has his obligations, he has his commitments. To make a long story short, I said, okay, let's think, you know, ask a bracha from the Rebbe. And she did. She asked a bracha. She got a very beautiful bracha. And then recently, maybe you've seen this amazing letter. There's a rabbi called shliach called Rabbi Kravitz, and he works for, you know, university students who are, you know, unfortunately affected by missionaries on campus. And years ago, he got an amazing letter from the Rebbe. The Rebbe said to him that sometimes if you can't affect a child directly, an adult child, like a, you know, a university age student, then you can affect your own child in an indirect way. So a parent could sometimes feel helpless and think, you know, how can I affect my son or daughter? They're already an adult. You know, they already have their own ideas, their own direction. They don't want to listen to what I have to say. But the Rebbe says, no, If you can't affect your own son or daughter directly, every neshama, especially parents and the siblings, you can have a very strong effect on your son or daughter that has strayed from the right path. And so the Rebbe writes there, if the parent makes an effort to make any increase in doing more mitzvahs or doing a little more hidur in mitzvah, to do something extra in order for their son and daughter to be closer to Hashem, that will have a big effect on them. So parents can definitely have an effect on their children's spiritual path, even if to our eyes it seems that they're far and distant and not interested. And so I read this letter. It was actually, I think, on Call Live. It's very interesting. And then I called up our friend, and I said to her, listen, there's an amazing answer from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe says that any mitzvah that you do, or any addition, any hachlata tova that you take on yourself has an effect on your son. So chas v'shalom, don't feel that you're helpless, and don't feel that you can't have an effect on him. Just the opposite. The Rebbe says that you have the power to slowly but surely have hashpah on your son. Even if you may not see it right now, it will definitely happen. So I remember she said, she told me, she says, I really feel that the Rebbe's my, like ro'et son, he's my shepherd, because how does he feel my heart? Only barely 1 month and a half after we were speaking on Rosh Hashanah, already I have a direction, already I have something that I can do to help my son. And we really see it all the time, that whenever a person decides to go and do a pu'ula and go on mivtzoim and help someone, there's always, you see a big hashkacha pratis. The Rebbe always helps that a good pu'ula should happen. There's always a good result that happens. Just practically speaking, you could, even if it means to always have you have a backpack or you have a pocketbook, you take with you Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach cards or Mashiach cards, do a good action. Nowadays they have beautiful kits, Nesha kits, you have the Ne'er Shabbos Kodesh with the brachas on them. To put them in your pocketbook, you're standing in the gas station, you're filling gas. Excuse me, are you Jewish? Here, take this. No, my wife's Jewish. Please take it to your wife. Give it to her. This is something special to light before Shabbos. It could even be, before Pesach, to have small shmura matzah, to have it in your pocketbook. You go with your son to the dentist, or you're going, you're going to IKEA, to Costco, wherever you're going for shopping. Have with you something to give out. I know my husband always has to fill in with him, just in case, there's someone, he'll wrap them up. Just several weeks ago, we went to Costco, we're walking out. The guy who checks the receipts, we see his name is Ben. So we said to him, the rabbi's name is also Ben, Binyamin. So are you Jewish? He says, yes, my mother is Jewish. Well, that makes you Jewish. And right away, to fill in right there in middle of Costco. And he came for Shabbos after that. And this is just from all these tiny, small encounters. You could see how neshamas are ignited. They wake up. And as the Rebbe says, in our generation, it's very easy. It's like dry straw. So easy to light the neshamas up. Mamish easy. They're waiting. They're thirsty for it. Another thing that's very, very a good conversation starter, especially is just to put a bumper sticker on your car. Add an extra act of kindness. Moshiach is on his way. People are looking to connect. You're going to the park anyway with the kids for a tiyul, to take them out on a field trip. You have a bumper sticker, illuminate the world. You can't believe how little things people pay attention to. They tune in, they want to see, they want to hear what you have to say. And you know what? It says it in Torah, V'atem hadvekim b'Hashem Elokechem, he who cleaves to Hashem, Chayim kulchem hayom, it gives you life. So if you think about it, when I connect, hadvekim means devek, to glue. When I connect another yid to Hashem, Chayim, you're giving them life. It's mamish, giving them strength, chayos. And that's what I see every time you touch a yid, you go out and you give them something, you invite them for Shabbos, you give them Hanukkah candles. Now we have Hanukkah in about a month from today, exactly a month from today, Chafei Kislev. You go out with Hanukkah candles just in your pocketbook. and you're ready to give them out. It has such a, it's so important. It's such a nachas to the Rebbe. Another thing that I found is not only to Yidden, but also to Goyim. Goyim also, Hashem creates them. They also have a purpose in this world. I remember as a little child, I was 9 years old. My parents lived right across from the Rebbe's house on President Street. And on certain days of the year, the Rebbe would give out coins to the kids standing outside right in front of the Rebbe's house. So the Rebbe comes out and goes into the Kafa Shachris, and we're standing on both sides of the sidewalk, the boys on one side and the girls on the other side. And that morning was Purim. So that day, the Rebbe gave out coins to all the kids who stood outside. And I remember we stood and the Rebbe gave everyone coins, and a non-Jewish woman, an African-American woman, passed by with her little boy. He was 5 years old. And as she's passing by, I'm thinking, the Rebbe's not going to give him because he's not Jewish. You know, he's only giving to the Yiddish kids. And as the Rebbe's giving, in middle, he pushed his hand to the child, this little boy, and he gave him a coin and continued to give to the other kids. And the woman said to her son, "Tell the old man thank you." And I thought to myself, I can't believe it. Can you believe the Rebbe felt this little child, this little boy? Why shouldn't he get a coin from the old man like everyone else? But to me, it left such an impression. You know, the Rebbe took a minute to give this little boy a coin, to give. To give, it means to any Bria, a Yid, lahavdil, not a Yid, but even not Yidden, they have a purpose in this world. Hashem doesn't make anything stam. I remember once, here in Tokyo, we have a lot of interaction with Japanese people who are very much interested in Yiddishkeit, not to convert. They're interested because they really appreciate the greatness of the Torah and the Jewish people. Every meeting that we have with Japanese people, whether it's government people who come or for kashrus, you know, they come, they want my husband to give, let's say, a hechsher on some product. There's always a pushka on the table and a dish with coins. They know you start the meeting with mivtza tzedakah. There's a mezuzah on the door. So even the Japanese people who come, they're aware that this is Beis Hashem, and that's what you start doing, first of all, by giving tzedakah. That's the promise for hatzlacha of the meeting. The other thing is, many times my husband goes in the street, you know, he meets some people, they see a rabbi, they ask him questions. Very often we have non-Jews also who come. They write a letter to the Rebbe, they ask for brachas. We had very fascinating stories with different situations. One Japanese who didn't get married for many years, he wanted a bracha, and soon after he got a bracha from the Rebbe, he found a Japanese wife and he got married. One time my husband went to help a Jewish man who had a court case. And after he left the courtroom, he saw in the hallway of the courthouse, he saw a woman crying very, very much. She was weeping bitterly. And my husband saw she wasn't Japanese, she was a foreigner. And he went over to her and he said, you know, why are you crying? Can I help you? And she looked at him and she said she told him her story. Her sister she just had a verdict, and she got 8 years in prison because she brought drugs to Japan. She was a blind mule, which means someone pushed her, you know, told her it was something else. Whether it's true or not is not the issue. But basically, she thought it was something else what she was carrying, but it was drugs. And the Japanese judge, the verdict was 8 years prison. And she was very broken. She said, how am I going to tell my mother such a terrible thing? My sister's not going to survive in a Japanese prison. It's a terrible verdict. And anyway, my husband told her, who's helping you? Who's the legal team? And, you know, he started to get into the details. And she told my husband that she has a few lawyers, that there's an NPO organization here in Japan that helps such cases of foreigners who come to Japan and have legal problems. And it's a huge, huge expense. And so they have these legal teams who work for NPOs, and they're the ones who are helping her out. So my husband said to her, listen, tomorrow night is Shabbos, come to my house and you'll have a wonderful time, and let's talk. Bring the other lawyers, bring your whole legal team. Let's have a talk. Anyway, they came, they were 5 people. This woman, actually she's an English woman, but originally Sikh, Indian. And her parents immigrated from India to London many years before. And so she came with her legal team. One was a Muslim from Iran, actually, another woman lawyer, and there were 3 other lawyers. And they came, they sat by the Suda, and then my husband asked her to tell a little bit about herself, and she said something very interesting. She said that she's the oldest of 5 children, and when this story, and she was fired from her job, she was laid off about 6 months before. She was very upset because she felt, she lost her job. But then she understood that there is a reason, because after the whole story with her sister happened, when she was caught in Japan, had she had a job, she couldn't have been able to help her sister. She couldn't have come to Japan if she had work. So she said, for sure, this happened for the good, so that she could come to Japan and really build the case and help her sister defend herself, And so it was amazing that, first of all, she was able to understand that there was a reason why she got laid off. She came to Japan, not stam. And then my husband said to her, listen, the fact that you took so much time of yourself, your parents couldn't come to Japan because of their old age. But the fact that you came and you gave so much of yourself to help your sister, you left your husband, you spent a lot of money, you spent a lot of time, a lot of effort in putting together this legal team and the case and the proofs and the witnesses, God will for sure pay you back. God will for sure pay you back in everything that you need. So she then said to my husband that she's married for several years and they don't have children. And she's tried different fertility treatments, but nothing has worked. And so my husband got up and said, we have a very great rabbi, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he cares about every single person. I'm blessing you that you should have a year from now twins. Not 1, 2, double bracha. It was unbelievable. And she said, how? But I'm 6 years, I'm trying. And it's unbelievable. And everybody said l'chaim. Everybody stood up and made a l'chaim. She came back to England less than a year later. It mamish miracles. She gave birth to twins. And every year on New Year, she sends us by them. New Year, she always sends us a postcard with herself, her husband, and her twins. And she has another 2 children that were born very soon after her twins. And she says, this is for sure the blessing of the rabbi who saw my pain in that hallway in the courthouse in Tokyo. And look how this woman, how the Rebbe sends his shaliach at that moment of tsar, of pain, just to help her out, and to one pu'ula brought to another. Not only did emotionally it helped her so much just to know that she's not alone, and that, her sister got, her world fell on her head. She worked so hard and she got 8 years. But the good news is, not only did Baruch Hashem, she was able to have children, her sister made an appeal, and miraculously, the judge was switched, and she was able to, they cleaned her. She was let free, completely let free. In Japan, if a person is let free after they're detained, you're actually given compensation for every day that they're held. So she was financially compensated all those months that she was held for nothing. Because once a judge says that you are clean from all guilt, then that acquitted, then you are also compensated financially. And so Baruch Hashem, this is an example that even with non-Jews, how important it is. You're anyway going on the train to go shopping in Manhattan or wherever it is, take with you Sheva Mrs. Bnei Noach card. You never know, it could really mean the world of a difference to a person. It's only one card. If it's hard for you, just remember, you're not going alone. The Rebbe's with you. You're just the Rebbe's hand. You're standing, the Rebbe's with you in every single place that you're going. If you have a Mashiach card, you have a Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach card, anything is a huge, huge help. The other example that we do here in Tokyo is we have cooking classes. Food always brings people together. And so let's say before Rosh Hashanah, we teach about different types of Rosh Hashanah foods. Yidden come, non-Jews come. And I remember not this Rosh Hashanah, but the previous Rosh Hashanah, one of the Japanese women, she said to me that for 3 years, she didn't go out of her house. She had her different reasons. She was very depressed. But then when she came for the Rosh Hashanah cooking class, she said, you know, there was one word that you mentioned. Why was Adam created alone? Because every single person has a special, unique mission in this world. The entire world was created for one person. And then I thought to myself, if God made the whole world just for me, what right how could I close myself for 3 years in the house? So she said to me, you gave me the strength to come out and to do something with my life. Anyway, Baruch Hashem, it's something that you don't think in advance, but Hashem gives you the right words and the right, kavanah, and you see mamish people wake up, Yidden and non-Jews. The other thing, and I'll end with this, is also sometimes we think shluchus is outside. That's also true, to go out, and every chance a person has to try to have an effect on someone, you never know what that person really, really needs. And that's why it's so important to really put in our mind and to really be aware how much every single pa'ula that we do has an effect on someone. But sometimes that pa'ula could be within ourselves, in our own community. Our shluchus and our mission, our mitzvah starts with ourselves, with our own neshama. Why? Because when we change ourselves and when we have an effect on ourselves, when we change, even a little hidur, even a little adding in something good, automatically that has an effect on our sister, on our children, on our cousin, on our sister-in-law, our neighbor, our student, basically on everyone, because we're not a person alone. Every person is connected to other people. And so every change that we do with ourselves, automatically it has an effect on other people. And I just want to give, it's like a ripple effect. I just want to give us an example. I remember there was one bacher who came to help us 20 years ago in our shlichus, and he came for Pesach. And he helped us a lot with the Seder, and he went back to Crown Heights, he got married, they had children, and several years later, about 10 years after, my husband came to 770, and they met. And he said to my husband something very interesting. He said, I have to tell you a story. He said that after he got married, they had children, and he had, I think, 5 or 6 daughters, and his wife very, very, very much wanted a son. And they discussed it, what they really, really, really wanted so much. They discussed it between themselves, the husband and the wife, and they decided they're going to ask the Rav for advice what to do. So the wife and the husband, they went to Rabbi Shvei, Alav Shalom, and Rabbi Shvei told the wife, when you go out to take the garbage, are you careful to put on a sheitel? So she said, sometimes yes, sometimes not. So the Rav told her, then from now, make achlata that even when you go out to take the garbage, even if it's 1 second, put on a sheitel. Because the Rebbe speaks so much about the importance of covering the hair, dafka with a sheitel, because it's hermetic. It covers much better. That'll bring you bracha. So anyway, she said, I'm taking it on myself. That's my achlata tova. And sure enough, within that year, they had their first son after 5 or 6 daughters. And he told the husband, can you believe it? This is just a little pa'ula. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm saying, here, even within Crown Heights, or Kfar Chabad, even within a Chabad Anash community, but there's so much mitzvahim, we could even with ourselves, one little hidur, a little bit more careful maybe with sheitel. If I'm buying something, it could be a little, not as tight as, not so tight, maybe a little looser. Mezuzahs, you'd be surprised. In Kfar Chabad, I remember my husband, when we first got married, he used to go around and ask people, can I check your mezuzahs? He would take it to a cipher, and he would, for free, he would get mezuzahs checked. And some people would tell me, I didn't check it for 4 years. I didn't even realize it. Sometimes we don't even realize in our own house, time passes, and we didn't check the mezuzahs. Or even to make other people aware. When was the last time you checked your mezuzah? Nowadays, you can, and every person in their own field, I'm sure every person can think how we can make our own hashpah in our own self and in our own community, and you don't even have to go far out to have that hashpah. So I just would like to end with one point. Is every person, whatever you need, Hashem should bench you, if it's children or parnasa barachava, and Shiduchim, Refuah Shlema, everything you should see Nisim Gluyim and reveal brachas in everything you do. You should Mirz Hashem, and it shouldn't take long. It should only be Rega Katan Azavtich, only for a short time that we don't see the Rebbe, Uberachamim Rabbi Makabtzech, and the Rebbe will soon take us all out of Galus and Geula now, and all the brachas you should see in the most revealed way. Thank you very, very much.
Efrat, you were fantastic. And I'll tell you something else, you look great. I'd like to hear more about the Japanese, the whole thing. What language do you speak? But now's not the time. And I've been told that I have to hurry up the program. So I will not speak. I will just say that we've learned so many things tonight. From Gitty, Simcha, from Molly, Magalim. It's not from me, Molly, not yet. But it's a brilliant idea. The lighthouse from Tzirel Liba Mitzmann, that song, that each one of us can be a lighthouse. And from Efrat, my goodness, I learned so many things. I keep writing because you never know. Each little thing is incredible. You never know. And now we're going to hear Simi Sebag. Simi is going to sing. And when I asked her what her passion is, I told you I read the answers. My passion is learning and sharing chassidus. Why? Because it's a taste of life. And I love living. Simi, take it away.
Hello everyone. Okay, so for me, one of the things that literally prove the power of the neshama is a niggin, because it makes no sense. Some random tune and suddenly you're like all inspired. So a niggin really, it shows the power of the neshama and the power that it has on us. The Alter Rebbe says that a niggin can erase schlafen from the tifsta blata, from the deepest mud. It can pull you out. So join me. I'm actually going to sing a little bit of a not oftenly sung one, and but it's beautiful nonetheless. So join with your soul, with your heart. Let's go. All right, so let's do a Simcha Dikawan, one more, a Simcha Dikawan, because that's the name of the game. All right. Hang on, I'm gonna do it one higher. It's too deep for me.
Thank you. Nothing like a nigun. Thank you. And I love both those nigunim. Thank you. Chaya Schwartz, by the way, I'm wearing your necklace. If Chaya's out there, I thought I saw her. Thank you, Chaya. There it is. I love it. Okay. And now we have Elisheva Smith. And Elisheva is going to speak about Isha Leyefi Netzra. A woman was created for beauty. Wow. And the beauty is in all that we do. And when I asked her what her passion is, she said, the beauty in all that we do, discovering the beauty in the gift of womanhood. Okay, Elisheva, go for it. Thank you.
Hello. That was such a beautiful nigun. Thank you so much. And the first one I had never heard, so that was so beautiful. So thank you to all the speakers who spoke tonight. I really learned so much and I feel so touched. And in general, I was so touched to be at a Farbrenghen, and I said to my husband, I said, wow, it's been so long. It's been so long. And he said, you know, a Farbrenghen is really about bringing neshamas together. So here you have this beautiful opportunity to bring together, to be together with so many neshamas, really, because we're not physically together. Our neshamas are together, connected. We have this beautiful opportunity to have neshamas connected. And we're not physically, we can't be physically close. So here we have this beautiful Farbrenghen in its essence and in its truth of what a Farbrenghen is meant to be. So I feel so grateful. And the topic that I'm going to be speaking about is a beautiful topic to me. It means a lot to me. And this concept of beauty in everything that we do and everywhere that we are is really a gift. And, you know, I think that I know that we live in a time where things are very different than we're used to. Things are changing, and there's levels of uncertainty that we're all experiencing. And some of us have their children home, and some of us have had their children home, and some of us have had their children home and have their children home. And could we go to the store and can we not go to the store? And so much is going on and changing and shifting, and what's going to be tomorrow is so uncertain. And this time for us to have and really connect to who we are and what we are. I always say that if we have a key in our pocket, but we don't know that we have it, I can't get into my front door if I have my key in my pocket, but I don't know where it is. So this idea of connecting myself to the treasure that I have is such a gift. So as we said, we're in a time where there's no going back. We know that we're not turning back from here. All we have is to go forward. And where do we want to go forward? We're walking towards the Geula, and we're at the threshold. We're so close. We're so close. And how do we carry ourselves through this time as a nation? How do we carry ourselves through this very turbulent time that we're in? So how do we do this? So we look back. We have to look back at the first redemption. And the first redemption, we know that it says, "B'zchut nashim tzidkaniyot nigalu avotenu, u'b'zchutam atidin leigael." So that's us. If Mashiach is right here, so close, then we are together, the nashim tzidkaniyos that are going to bring the geula and the complete and final redemption. So let's look back at these women so that we could learn from them. So we look back at the women, and we know what they've been through. We know the hardships. We can't imagine really, we can't really touch. We don't have a concept because we, Baruch Hashem, have merited to live in relative abundance, right? And freedom. But they were oppressed, and they were, the avodas parach that we know that they lived through was a time where they were not allowed to be in their own skin, right? They switched the avodah of the women for the avodah of the men, and vice versa. So people didn't have this opportunity to be themselves and who they are, really. And that was a struggle that they had to overcome. So we look at the women, and we know famously what these women did, right? They knew what they needed to do as the Nashim Tzidkaniyos. They came to their husbands. They came to their husbands with what we know today were called the Hamarot HaTzuvot, the mirrors. And let me ask a question. If I'm taking a mirror somewhere, these women came to be with their husbands. They does not describe a tremendous amount of accessories that they came with. They came with a tool, one tool. Now, if I'm to use a mirror in a crowd, would I be using a mirror to show someone else me? No, they could see me directly. Well, maybe I'm using it to show someone else myself. But I wouldn't need a mirror for that. Then they could see me. Why did they need a mirror? And that's what I want to explore tonight. The women in that generation needed a mirror because, and this is my thought, the women in that generation needed a mirror because they had to regroup. They had to bring themselves back to their essence of who they are, what their mission is, what their beauty is, what their gift is in order to have the strength to carry themselves through. So what did they come with? What did they come with when they came to inspire their husbands? They came with the 3 mitzvahs that were given to a woman. They came, first of all, to shed light on the situation, right? That's the first mitzvah we have, is the mitzvah of Ner. We light a Shabbos candle to usher in Shabbos. And how do we do that? By lighting a candle. Before the Eibishter created the world, what was the first thing he created? It was light, Yehi Or. Let's turn the light on. Let's shed light on the situation, first of all. So the women came to their husbands with their smile. They came with their joy. They came with their hope. They came with their vision. And I want to say that that's called shedding light on a situation. Shedding light means putting things back into perspective. Who are we? What are we? What's our mission? Things are looking turbulent. But what is the truth? They came with the light. And that's one gift of beauty that a woman brings to the world. Everywhere she turns, wherever she is, she carries within her this gift of light that she brings to the world. The second thing we're told that they brought to their husbands, they brought them food. Right? That's our second. That's our second mitzvah, right? Challah. Now it doesn't say our mitzvah is bread. Really, we're discussing what is the mitzvah about. It's about freshest challah, right? Taking some of our challah and giving it to the kohen in the times of the Beis HaMikdash. Now we are waiting for that time to come in Mr. Hashem. But when it describes the mitzvah of challah, it could really be any bread. Why are we talking about challah? It's any bread. If we're baking, we need to separate bread. Why challah? Challah is bread, but it's a beautiful bread. It's a bread that we take and we, in Hebrew we say likloa, we braid it. We elevate this bread to bring to the Shabbos table. Why do we braid the Shabbos challah? It's different than the challah that we use during the week. It's the Shabbos challah. Than the bread that we use during the week. It's the Shabbos challah. We braid it. We know that when Eibishter brought Chava to Adam, and the first time he introduced him to his new wife, what did he do? He decorated her. 24 kishutim. But the one that's the most famous that we all know is that he braided her hair. And that's what we do to the challah. We braid it. But it's not only in challah that we bring beauty, it's in every food that we make. Think about your salad, think about the color. Think about when you present the food to the table, the beauty with which you present it. It means so much. That's what brings about the appetite. It's presented beautifully. And the third mitzvah is the mitzvah of Taras HaMishpacha. Is there anything more beautiful than bringing life into the world? Now, in order to accomplish this, the women brought mirrors. Why did they bring mirrors? Because they were looking to this beauty within themselves, this beauty that is a gift to them and a gift to every single one of us in this generation, all the generations. This gift of beauty that we bring to the table, we bring to the world, and we are in essence. It's not something that we have to search for. It's not something that we have to do. It's not something that we have to create. It's something that we just need to know that we are, and that we need to know that we have the opportunity and the gift to bring it to the world. And that's why they used the mirrors. And when they brought it to the Beis HaMikdash, and Moshe Rabbeinu was hesitant, I don't really know what this use is for. And the Eibishter said, no, I want this in my Beis HaMikdash. I want these ma'ot tzavot in my Beis HaMikdash. Because these women understand what it means to bring the beauty, the physical beauty and the spiritual beauty together. And I want to tell you something. It's beyond the concept of bringing it together. It is together. The physical beauty and the spiritual beauty really, really are one and really, really are together. And that is the gift that the Eibishter gave to each and every one of us. And when we work through these turbulent times, and we carry our families through these turbulent times, and we carry our communities through these turbulent times, we want to point ourselves as women and our fellow women and our friends around us back into the essence of who they are, because with that strength, they will be able to carry the load and the responsibility that they have. So we'll just summarize again the three mitzvahs of a woman, the three mitzvahs that she brings beauty into, that are beauty, that come from within her, that naturally flow from her, and that we don't have to go far for, right? It says in Tanya, Ki karov elecha hadavar me'od, it's close to us. It's not It's not distant, it's not far, it's not difficult, it's close to us. So how do we bring beauty into the world? First, we shed light. We turn the light on. We bring our smiles. We bring our passion. We bring our beauty. We bring our love. We bring our hope. We bring our perspective. And we all do this every day, all day. And then we bring life into the world. There is nothing more beautiful than the life. There is nothing more beautiful than your children's smile. There is nothing more beautiful than seeing the vibrance and the joy that the next generation brings. And then we have this gift of nurture, right? We separate the challah, we take it, and in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, we give it to the Kohen Gadol, but it's the same concept of giving. It's the same concept of nurturing. We give to our children, we give to our husbands, we give to our neighbors, we give, and that just brings so much beauty, so much love, and ties together the physical beauty and the spiritual beauty, which is built in within each and every one of us. And may we use our mirrors to see that and to bring it to life and to be conscious and aware of it so that we carry it with us through our days. To the Geula Shlema.
You are beautiful.
Thank you.
You're really beautiful. It was so good to look at you. So now I know discovering the beauty and the good gift of womanhood. You're a good example. Thank you.
We all are. We all are.
Yes, some a little better than others, but okay.
We all are. Thank you.
Thank you, Z-Skype. Thank you very much. And I was just going to tell you, I teach in a school and they had a color war and they called it Gam Zoom Latova. So Gam Zoom Latova. And what a Farbrenghen we're having tonight. Our last speaker, and thank you so much to Perel Krasniansky, the shlucha for 33 years in Hawaii, who really did us a very big favor. We were saving her for another time, for a time where she would be the original speaker. Mrs. Belanov, Fruma Belanov, worked very hard on this. And when, and when Mrs. Bernstein couldn't do it, we were so happy. And we're so happy that Perel Krasniansky is with us. She's going to be speaking about sheitel, I think. And she's there 33 years. And I asked her, what's your passion? She said, and I'm reading it, to do the utmost every day to fulfill the shlichus here in Hawaii, as it was mandated to us, listen, mandated to us by the Rebbe personally, when he told my husband and me to make Hawaii adira b'tachtenim. And they have been working on this for 33 years. And just the concept, ladies, we learned so many incredible things tonight. What a Farbrenghen. To do the utmost every day to fulfill our shlichus, no matter where we are. As Efrat Edry said, our shlichus could be at 484 Crown Street or anywhere else that you live. And so, our last speaker, I love tonight's Farbrenghen. And if you'll stay on 2 minutes afterwards, I'd like to tie it up. Perel Krasniansky, Hawaii. Go for it.
Hello, ladies. I would say good night, except that, first of all, excuse me, as you can see from the background, right before Corona, we moved. So my apologies. This is the only quiet place in the Chabad house. We haven't yet finished unpacking. When Mrs. Belanov called me this morning, she asked me to speak about sheitel, and I prepared a few things. But I think given the fact that it is 10:45 p.m. in the evening on the East Coast, I think I'm going to scrap the things that I had planned to say, because this is definitely not the time for me to go into depth in terms of a share. But I would like to share a number of stories. And even though these stories at first glance do not seem to have any connection to sheitel, but they all have a point, and they're all connected to each and every one of our levels of wearing a sheitel. Okay, first story I want to know, I want to repeat, excuse me, and my apologies in advance if any of you have heard them again, but some of the stories are stories of Hawaii.
Okay, we have a problem. The Wi-Fi went down in Hawaii. And then somebody just wrote to me that when I said that Mrs. Bernstein last minute couldn't do it, I said we were so happy. I meant we were so happy. I don't understand. I'm sure everybody figured that out. That we were so happy that we were able to get Mrs. Krasniansky. Really, yeah? Okay, I apologize in case chas v'sholem anybody thought differently. We were so happy that we got Mrs. Krasniansky at the last minute, and it was very nice of her to do this for us. And I don't know what to do. Whoever's in charge, please tell me what to do. The whatever went down in Hawaii. So what I'll do is I'll wrap up my end. And in case it comes back on again, we will hear. So.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, great. Okay.
My apologies. The internet went down for a second and I'm back, and hopefully I'll be able to stay back. And let me make sure that I stay on the Chabad network. Okay. Anyhow, so as I was saying, so Herbert Wiener was this Reform rabbi, came to Farbrenghen and was very, very struck by what he saw. And he asked to go in Yechidus, and he did. And this was in 1956, Tafshin Teszayin. And he went to the Rebbe and he spoke for a while. And at the very end, he spoke to the Rebbe and he said like this. He said, Rebbe, please, I'm paraphrasing obviously, please excuse my chutzpah, but there's a question that I would like to ask you. And the Rebbe said, go ahead. And he said, I see in the eyes of your Hasidim a certain naivete and a certain simpleness, not simplicity, simpleness. And I'd like to ask you about that. And the Rebbe smiled and he answered like this. He said, what you see is not naivete and not simpleness. What you see is the lack of a kera. Kera is a split. The Rebbe said, you are used to dealing with Jewish people whose lives are split. They have the Jewish component of their life and they have the rest of their lives, he said. In my Hasidim, their lives are, before this phrase became very popular, one organic whole. Their lives are one story, one intertwined piece. And therefore, what you see is the lack of a split, not naivete. And that story always struck me and stayed with me, because I think that is a very powerful lesson for us today, where we stay focused on not having that kera, on not having a face that we present to the world and a face that we present in our own homes or in social circles that are our own or that we're comfortable with. And wearing the sheitel is part of that. We all know that obviously the women on this call are committed to wearing a sheitel. We're talking about wearing a sheitel in the way the Rebbe asked a bakasha nafshis. The Rebbe did not say bakasha nafshis, which means a heartfelt request. The Rebbe was asking from his etzem, from his essence. He was asking us, women, to wear our sheitlach all the time when we go out and when we go shopping. And it's not like we're just running to the grocery store. And we don't have time now to go into deep chassidus. But I just would like to share one thought, and that is as follows. You know, when I was a little girl, we would buy like these little toy games in the bubblegum machine in the candy store. And one of those was a kaleidoscope. And I love using this mashal when I teach my ladies. What is a kaleidoscope? A kaleidoscope is when you turn the little knob at the head of it, at the top of it, the entire picture changes. And the same thing is true when we look at anything, when we look at it through the eyes of chassidus, or when we look at it through eyes of the world, we see a whole different picture. So here in general, everybody sees it through their own paradigm, right? A scientist will look at here and see how here functions on the body. A swimmer will look at here and talk or analyze how the hair on his body impacts his speed. And chassidus looks at here and tries to uncover the deeper meaning of here. So there's hair on a man, there's hair on a woman, there's hair on a nazir, there's hair on a lady, just to talk about 4 situations that the Torah tells us about. So on a man, al pi chassidus, the hair is supposed to be kept as short as possible. That's why chassidish men have very, very short hair, except for, obviously, the payas and the beard. And that's because the payas on the head has a different energy and a different function than the beard and the payas. And then we'll skip the woman for a second. By a nazir is a nazirite. A nazir is not allowed to cut his hair. And by contrast, the Levium, when Shevet Levi was inaugurated to serve as the Avish's representatives in the Mishkan in the times of the Midbar in the desert, they had to shave all their hair. So clearly hair has very special energy. And very, very briefly, a woman has very strong power, but it's like nuclear power. Nuclear power can be used to nourish and we harness nuclear energy for electricity, etc., etc. And nuclear power, as we all know, can be very destructive. Look at World War II, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, when nuclear power was unleashed to the world. Look at Chernobyl in our own time, what damage and illness that caused amongst populations far away from Chernobyl. So nuclear power is very strong. A woman has that power. A woman's hair has that power. And that's why when you have something that powerful, it needs a tremendous amount of protection. Go look at a nuclear power plant. How many layers and levels of security there are before you get to the core nuclear reactor, right? Never having been in a nuclear plant, I can't give you details, but just knowing from what I read, you have layers and levels of doors and securities and locks and all kinds of safeguards so that the nuclear power is not unleashed in a harmful way. In the very same way, the hair on the head of a woman is also a very, very powerful force. And we have to guard that. And like everything else the Eibishter tells us, we have to use that force in a way that brings nourishment and peace and harmony to our families, and particularly our husbands, and not, chas v'shalom, in any way, shape, or form, allow that force to be used in any way that brings, quote unquote, disruptive ruchniistic forces into our lives, and particularly our husbands who are reached by ruchniistic forces through his wife. And covering our hair especially when we go outdoors, even for small errands, is something that has incalculable value that we may not see or feel on the surface. But like everything else, we know that Olam equals Helam, and the truth is indeed means the surface. So now I'm going to share a few more stories. And like I said, each of them have a point that may not seem to be directly related to your covering, although there is one very powerful story. I have a very close friend here. She's a Japanese heiress. And she got married, and she was having trouble having children. She was not conceiving that quickly. And she went with her husband to Bali. Husband's Israeli and loves to surf. And a lot of Israelis here that come here to surf then take trips to Bali, which is, you'd think Hawaii was remote enough. Bali's even more remote, and they go surfing there. In any case, she joined her husband on his trip to Bali. She usually doesn't. And when she went to Bali, turns out that it was her time to go to the mikveh. And there was no mikveh, obviously, in Bali. So she went to the shore where her husband surfed. It was rocky, it was steep, and there were waves crashing on the rocks. It was clearly extremely dangerous. And her husband was urging her to give up on going to the mikveh and said, you know, one time, nish geferlach, it's not going to be terrible if you don't go to the mikveh this time. And she absolutely insisted on going to the mikveh. And it was very dangerous. It literally was sakanas nefashis. I mean, that is real mesiras nefesh. For 23 years in Hawaii, we used the ocean here. Before Baruch Hashem, we built our own small mikveh in our backyard. But going on the crashing waves, on the rocks and cliffs of the seashore in Bali, that is true mesiras nefesh. But she did it because she was determined to do it. And when she, when she finished being tevel, she was with her husband, and that month she conceived and became pregnant. That is their only child. Now, we'll never know, but I firmly believe that it is clear to me, at least, that maybe this woman was not destined to have children, but because of her mesiras nefesh, in going to the mikveh under such dangerous circumstances, that is real, true mesiras nefesh, the Eibishter granted her the gift of a child. Now, for all of us, what's the parallel that I want to draw with sheitel wearing, even though this story is about mikveh, not about sheitel? That all of us have different levels of comfort or anxiety or difficulty in terms of when and where and how we cover our hair. Some women cover their hair in their home more fully, some less fully, some cover their hair more fully or less fully when they go outside. The level of mesiras nefesh that you, every single one of us, not you, me, every one of us, all of us, need to have to keep this mitzvah to the highest, most beautiful standard possible, that our Rebbe asked us in a heartfelt request, as I said earlier, that is our personal mesiras nefesh. And only the Eibishter knows what it takes out of us to keep it to that level. But if we do, no matter how difficult it is for us personally, and no one can judge you or me or anyone else how difficult the different levels it is for everyone to cover their hair in the house and out of the house and running errands and wherever we go and wherever we may be, whether it's on vacation or not. I say vacation because I live in Hawaii, but it's no vacation for me, it's vacation for everybody else. No matter how difficult it is, only the Eibishter knows how much mesiras nefesh it takes on our part. And I firmly believe, like the Rebbe would always say, the Eibishter does not stay in debt to us. He repays us 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more than whatever effort we put in. So knowing that and knowing how much the Rebbe wanted it and knowing what a powerful spiritual ruchnistic force our hair contains and how much covering it protects that power and that vulnerability, how much it guards that latent intensity that is inside of every married Jewish woman. And when by covering it, harnesses that force for the good, then I am sure that the Eibishter will repay us many, many times in return. I want to share one story about mikvah, about sheitel wearing that's very, very dramatic. Many of you may have heard it. Again, please forgive me if you have. I will say it very briefly here. I heard it. I saw the video of the woman speaking about it, and it moved me deeply. There is a woman, and her name is Charlene Amanoff, and they live in New York, and a young Orthodox couple, Persian, although she's blonde and blue-eyed, doesn't look Persian, traditional Persian, and she also had trouble conceiving, and she went to the Rabbanim. The Rabbanim told her to be more tzniusik, so she stopped wearing pants, and she started being more covered up than she had been previously. But she still did not cover her hair. And once the family went on vacation to Miami Beach, Florida, and they were, they decided it was a beautiful day. She says over and over what a beautiful day it was. And they decided to go outside of their condominium or their hotel room, wherever it was that they were staying. And they left their little daughter, I believe she was 4 years old, her name was Gali, with the nanny, with the babysitter at the pool. And they went to the water, to the beach, to the ocean. I believe she went boating. Her sons and her husband went boating, and she was watching them. And then they finished, and they start walking back to, I believe it was their condo building. And excuse me, I'm blurring a little bit on the details. Anyhow, they come to the pool, and they see their daughter lying unconscious. Now, apparently, while the babysitter's back was turned or something had happened, the little girl fell into the water. And she had been in the water for long enough so that, Rahman al-Litzlan, it looked like she was not there. And that she was no longer with us, Rahman al-Litzlan. And her father, Jonathan Amanoff, he had worked for Hatzalah for many, many years as a volunteer. So he quickly went and did CPR to revive his daughter, and obviously screaming and crying and davening to the Eibishter. And when Charlene saw this and looked at this, and after all the difficulty she had had in having children, she froze and obviously also was screaming and crying. And she said in her mind, she said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if you save my child's life, I will cover my hair. And that was something that was very, very hard for her. She had never done it. She had not undertaken it until then. And it was not something that her and her husband had agreed upon that she would do, but she promised that she would cover her hair if her child would be literally brought back to life. And her husband is working on her. And finally he screams, I have a pulse. And they rush the little girl into the ambulance. They take her to the hospital. To make a very long story short, they did revive the girl. It was literally Trias Mason. The doctors said they never saw a miracle that a child who was not conscious for that many minutes and was under the water for that many minutes, and her brain did not receive oxygen for that many minutes. Not only was she revived, but when she was revived and returned to consciousness, Baruch Hashem, after her hospital stay, she returned to herself, and she was totally normal. Baruch Hashem, there was no Rahman al-Litzlan, there was no brain damage or any of the normal after effects of a drowning. She literally had drowned, and this was literally Trias Mason that both Charlene and her husband Jonathan witnessed and saw. And obviously, from then on, Charlene began covering her hair, first with a tichel and then with a sheitel. And she started a line of sheitels called Gali wigs, and until today, she has that business that she started l'schus her daughter's recovery and her daughter's refuah shlema. So that is a very strong and powerful story that obviously we don't see such kind of miracles every day, but we do see, as I mentioned earlier, that here the Eibishter paid her in advance. The Eibishter gave her back her daughter's life, and she made the t'nai that she would always cover her hair afterwards. And she's this beautiful blonde young lady, and she travels all over speaking about her experience, encouraging everybody to wear sheitlach all the time. And she tells her personal miracle story that happened at, that she herself witnessed. I want to close with one short story. It's late, and I'm sure everybody, as lovely as this Farbrenghen was, I'm sure everybody wants to finish the night. I don't know if the story is true or if it's apocryphal, if it's just a story. But again, I found it powerful enough that I wanted to share. So there's a story told about a rabbi who was sent to Texas, and he was hired to be the rabbi of a shul that was old and dying. And he came to town, and he decided he wanted to, go around the town and see what the town looked like. So he got on the city bus. He was new to town. He had no car. Got on the city bus, and he paid the fare. And the bus driver gave him change. And as he sat down, he looked at the change in his hand, and he realized that the bus driver had given him a quarter extra, 25 cents extra. And he was debating with himself, what should he do? Should he give the quarter back or not? On the other hand, obviously, he should give it back because it wasn't his. It was more than he was supposed to receive. On the other hand, it was such a small amount, it was almost silly and ridiculous and petty. And he was wavering back and forth. Should I give it back? Should I not? Should I give it back? Should I give it not? And he decided at the end that, he's going to give it back when he gets off. And as he gets off, he's getting ready to get off the bus, he goes over to the bus driver and he gives him back. He says, driver, you gave me 25 cents extra change. And the driver says, Rabbi, because clearly he looked like a rabbi. He says, Rabbi, let me tell you something. He says, I'm Jewish and I'm not religious. I'm not observant. And lately I was thinking about if I should go back to synagogue or not. And I was debating with myself if I should, if I shouldn't. It's been a long time. I'm not a religious Jew. Should I go back or not? And he says, when I saw you come on the bus, I thought to myself like this, I'm going to give the rabbi some extra money. If he returns it to me, I know that he's a real person. He's an honest person. He represents God, and I should go back to shul. And if he doesn't give it back to me, I know the opposite. He said, Rabbi, see you in shul on Saturday. That's what the bus driver tells him. And the rabbi gets off of the bus, and he was just overwhelmed. He goes to the nearest lamppost, and he just clutches it for support. He says, Rebbeinu Shalaylam, I nearly lost a neshama for a quarter. So ladies, what I want to say is that a lot of times we do things that seem small, but we have no idea of the greater impact that it has. This rabbi had no clue that in giving the driver back the quarter, that it would have such a tremendous effect on this unaffiliated, not connected Jew, and bring him back to the shul for the first time in many, many years. When we go out and we are dressed properly and we are looked properly and we have pride in who we are and we wear our sheitel and we wear our sheitels fully, we don't know what impact that has. One last anecdote that I'll close with that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but bears repeating, very well known, and I will say it b'shem Imra, or Imra, I should say, because again, the woman who it happened to says it in her own name. And this happened with Mrs. Nemes, who was a dearly beloved teacher at Beis Rivka for many, many, many years. And very early on, in the early years of the Rebbe's Nasias, this was probably in the 50s, the late 1950s, she was a newly married young woman, and she went into Yechidus by the Rebbe. And she asked the Rebbe, amongst the other things that she asked the Rebbe for a bracha for gesund, for health. And the Rebbe answered her, halb ben shetel is halb gesund. Half a shetel is half health, 50% health for 50% shetel. And she said, aber Rebbe, ich trage doch a shetel. I'm wearing a full shetel. I'm wearing a whole shetel. And the Rebbe repeated, halb ben shetel is halb gesund. Half a shetel is 50% of the bracha of health. Now, it turns out, ladies, that she was Mrs. Nemes, obviously very frum, tzniusika woman, And as was the fashion that day, she was wearing a fall that began here, and in front of it, I guess, was she had a hat on that covered the front part that was not the fall. But clearly she saw that the Rebbe was serious and that it meant so much to the Rebbe to wear a full sheitel, not even a fall and covered with a hat, so that, you know, in any case, I think the lesson is apparent and self-evident to all of us. Ladies, may we take heart from all these stories in this beautiful Farbrenghen, and may we use all our innate, powerful, feminine keches to do what the Rebbe wants of us, as he told us clearly over and over again, and may, following the Ratzon of Eibushem, following the clear Hiras of the Rebbe, may that help bring Mashiach now, today, even before Shabbos. Save us all from Shabbos cooking. Maybe. Good night. We don't hear you. We don't hear you, Mrs. Swerdlov. We don't hear you.
You hear me now? I love how you talk, Perel, your command of the words.
Yes, we hear you.
And your sheitel looks terrific, so it's good. So I would like to do something. We have for 3 minutes. The crown of success. I think it was an extremely successful Farbrenghen. I'd like to thank all of the incredible speakers. I'd like to thank Fruma Belina for all the work that she put in. And I would like to open the lines. I want 3 people to give me 3 things, 1 each, just 3 people, what they gained from tonight's Farbrenghen and what are we going home with. The people in charge, could you open the lines? Is there any way to do that? Hello? Does anybody hear me? I just see that Shayna left, but does anybody hear me out there? I'm gonna give it another second or 2. Can we open up the line so 3 people can tell us what they're going home with? I don't want to be the one to speak. No? Okay. So I learned a tremendous amount. You didn't know? And I learned a tremendous amount from Efrat. And I learned.
Smile.
I just
Yes.
people that can speak.
She smiled.
1 person at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Can you phone? Oh, Mazel Tov. Can you make it so
Okay,
I can
okay,
see the
bye.
people?
See everyone? Let me see.
Be careful.
Yes, you're gonna do that.
Okay.
And then there's more people, you swipe.
Okay. I just want somebody. Is anybody going to say anything?
Mirla, you were wonderful. Mirla,
Oh,
did
hear
you
you.
hear me? I said you were wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Molly. We're just,
A delight.
okay. Let's see some more people and tell me something.
I learned that even if you're doing something really, really tiny that doesn't look like it's very big, I have no idea if you're doing it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Hey, go ahead. Go ahead.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to whoever it is that's talking to me now. Who is it?
I guess
What's
it's
your
me.
name?
I
Go ahead.
want you to say that I learned that even if you're doing something really, really tiny and it doesn't look very big to you at all, it still could be an accomplishment to be proud of.
Excellent. 100% right. 100% right. Now, I don't know how to do this. My granddaughter left, so I don't know how to do that. Okay, so thank you, all of you, very much. I don't know how to find the people. I want to be a lighthouse. I want to be a happy lighthouse. I want to go on Mitzmann. And hey, you never know. Thank you
Hello.
very, very much.
And
Yes.
Sneas.
Thank you, Miriam.
Miriam, and you want to be
Sneas.
Sneas.
1 minute. I'm all sneezing. Look at me. I'm covered from everywhere. Thank you, the highest one.
Not on me.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Clear?
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very, very much. Thank you to Tzirel, Liba, Mitzmann.
Yeah.
Thank you to Efrat Edry. Thank you to
You notice
Simi,
that what?
Sebag. Bye, everybody. Have a good Shabbos.